Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. My name is Andrew Sumner, and I'm privileged to be joined by the musician and composer Tyler Bates, the man who has composed the soundtracks for some of our favorite movies, all those great movies with Zack Snyder, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, the John Wick franchise, Deadpool 2. The hits just keep on coming, and the former guitarist for Marilyn Manson. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on your show there, Andrew.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And we're here to talk specifically about this intriguing new project that you've got in association with DC and with Loma Vista. And as our customers will know only too well, we've just finished up Dark Knight's Death Metal, the series, the comic book series by the amazing Scott Snyder and the great Greg Capullo. But you have actually composed a soundtrack for that project. So how did that come about, Tyler?
Well, I met Greg and Scott years ago, and also Matt Keller from DC. And we had intended to do something on this scale a few years ago for their first series, Dark Knight's Metal. But because of circumstances, we didn't have the opportunity to really see it come to fruition. And then when Matt and I were talking really right before the COVID lockdown, we were talking about doing another one, but getting in front of it so that we could really make the most of the project. And so we started talking to record companies, and I told them, I said, I would like to bring this to Loma Vista and see if they would be into it. And Tom and Ryan Wally were down, and we have a history of working together on some things. So it was great to have them as our label mate. And that's when the music started. And really the concept was to create a soundtrack album that was inspired directly by the source material that Scott and Greg created. Now, it's impossible not to be inspired if you're an artist, a musician, to read and Scott's words and in the context of Greg's artwork. There's just no way you can't be inspired. So the first song that happened was Now You've Really Done It, which I wrote with my friend Greg Capullo, formerly of Dillinger Escape Plan, and Gil Sharon, who is a great drummer that he and I have done many projects together. And once we got going, I gave Loma Vista, the artists that I really wanted to work with, Starcrawler being one. I love them. I'm working with them now on their new record, and I'm very excited about that. Chelsea Wolfe, who I was just completely vexed by her music and her presentation. So I had spoken to Chelsea, and she was down. And so once the artists started coming together, Loma and I were collaborating too. So, Health, they're my friends, and they happen to be a Loma artist. So we decided that we'd get together and write. Anti-Life happened, and then we're fans of Mastodon. We're fans of Idols. We're fans of all the artists that are on the album, and it came together very naturally. But one thing I wanted to ensure was to the fans that they knew this was made by fans of the stuff that they love too. So everyone on this record is a super fan of the graphic novel world, the comic world. Like Denzel Curry is encyclopedic in his knowledge about everything DC. And as a matter of fact, when he came here to record a voice performance for the Sonic Metalverse, I mean, he told me so much about it, I didn't even know. Here I am working with his material daily. Andy Biersack of Black Veil Brides came in to voice Batman, and once DC heard his performance, they're like, Tyler, you've got to do a song with Andy. So then I talked to Andy, and we talked about doing a duet with somebody, and I said, well, let me check into a couple of my friends, and I asked Maria Brink, and she was down. She's from the band In This Moment, and she's really just a wonderful person to work with and a great talent. I did not know at the time that she and Andy, their bands were scheduled to be on tour, but COVID kind of took it down. And so anyway, we did the song. Amazingly, they're scheduled to tour again starting in September. So that was kind of a really serendipitous moment of kismet that occurred, but there's so many of those that happen throughout this. The Sonic Metal motion comic series that I made for this was really inspired by the idea of bringing all the artists together to celebrate, engage in and celebrate this medium and this particular material that Scott and Greg have created. So no, I wasn't really thinking, yeah, I want to create a new dimension of comic book entertainment, but it was more about how can we really authenticate a soundtrack album of songs that is related to a comic book. And while they were all inspired directly from the material, because everybody wrote the songs based on that, whether it's someone I collaborated with or it was something I produced or whatever, I wanted the fans to understand that this was done by us. You know, the motion comic was something I made with the help of some people, but it wasn't off to like, you know, some department of this big company. It was like, no, I want to do this by hand.
Yeah.
And so there are real high moments, there are real rocky moments in it, but it's still a way all of our artists who don't necessarily even know each other were able to join in this concentric medium and have the opportunity to voice classic DC characters. And we didn't have to really care what anyone thought. We did it because we loved it.
Yeah.
So I think that's transcendent in the material. And I think that when you listen to the complete soundtrack album and know the origin of it, know that it was inspired by the material, you feel that. And like a movie soundtrack, we wanted to create something that would be a companion piece that really resonates with the essence of the source material. So, you know, there's a soundtrack album for movies that I work on, whether it's a score album or a song album or a combination of both. The idea is that the fan who's experienced that material wants to live, you know, they want to experience the feeling of that movie, not in the theater, but when they're driving their car or whatever they're doing, and they want that continued feeling. And that's what we set out to do here, because I was so greatly impacted by the material. I'm just blown away by their talent, and it feels really great to call together an album of this caliber artists who all share in that idea. So we're all very excited and proud of what we've made.
Quite rightly so. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of work, and it's the first example I can think of somebody doing this successfully. And what it brought to mind when I heard about the project. Do you ever remember that there was in the mid-70s there was a Peter Parker Spider-Man rock opera album? Have you ever heard that? There was it's something that Marvel did, so it's like an entire kind of, you know, it's a concept album wrapped around Spider-Man. Are you aware of that, Tyler? Have you ever heard it?
Yeah, you just unwittingly dragged me into the middle age category with yourself.
Sorry, brother.
Hell yeah. No, man. Life is life. We're only where we're at because the road we came in on. And I've had an extremely colorful life. So hence the color of my gunship t-shirt. But yeah, you know, I saw that, and obviously everything to do with the crossover of comics and film and soundtracks. So, you know, like Highlander is like an interesting entity, and hopefully we're going to make that into a movie series at some point with one of the directors I work with. But
amazing. With Henry Cavill, right? Isn't he attached to it at the moment?
I'm not confirming or denying any information. I don't know anything. But actually, you know, I'm still every day, I'm a super fan of music and art, and I'm excited to create. And this was so amazing during a very challenging time for our world to be able to engage and interact with all these great artists who they love the opportunity to escape into this medium with no pressure to create a full record, no pressure to write a hit single, but just to write a song that they were inspired to write based on the material. That was really the objective with anybody that I worked with on the record. And, you know, I think that you can feel that. And there's a lot of fire in the record. There's a lot of emotion in the record. And it's really fun, you know, for me now that it's done, to
Yeah.
hear it all as a whole piece. I mean, it was a logistical challenge to say the least, not only to develop all the songs, but then to get all the vocal performances from all the artists who contributed to the motion comic. So they would come in at different times, and until I had the vocal performance from each artist, I couldn't really contextualize it or create the sound or music that accompanies it in the motion comic. So it was pretty crazy, but it was also cool that people were all stoked to do it. Like nobody begrudgingly said, "All right, I'll do this." They're like, "Hell yeah," you know. So that was really great.
I mean, I think it's such a wonderful thing to have done, such a brilliant way to have harnessed this very unusual period of time that we've all been through in terms of, taking advantage of that, perhaps changing people's schedules to put this project together. And one of the things that really speaks to me is even if you told me maybe 18 months ago that I'd be talking to you about a bespoke song that you created around the concept of the anti-life equation, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. That can't be a real thing. It just sounds too dreamlike, too wonderful to actually be real.
Well, what was cool is, again, I mean, it's a traumatizing era for everybody, no matter how they came through this. And it was really confusing and uncomfortable. But for instance, Jake from the band Health, he and his girl just had a baby at the time COVID started, pretty much. So he was not comfortable coming to my studio even masked, right? Because he just wanted to make sure he was uber safe. And I had been throughout. But John, also from the band, he and I are friends too. So John would come here and we'd work masked up, but we still had some of those fucking A moments, when we would drop a heavy riff and like, hell yeah, that's cool. And you forget for just a minute, you forget that the world is in like a just completely dire straits. So it was really about escapism during this process, which is really what comics are about. It's escapism, even though this material reflects life is in the real world. So in such an exacting way that it's frightening. If you really think of this material and what we're experiencing around the globe right now. So anyway, it was an awesome escape for us and for every artist that was not able to be on tour or celebrate the release of their new record. We did have some of those hell yeah moments for everybody. And that's part of what I wanted to create too, was some positivity and an escape from the darker circumstances that everyone was in as a result of all of this.
I think that's a very noble pursuit, mate. And something I wanted to ask you specifically about, in addition to the anti-life track, which we've just talked about a little bit, was a track that I really, really enjoyed was Never Ending by the Manchester Orchestra. Could you tell me a bit about the genesis of that?
Yeah, that song really moved me when Andy sent me their initial performance of the song. So Manchester, they have a kind of like a permanent setup where they just can go in and record in their spot. Andy and I spoke about the comic. I sent him an issue of Dark Knight's Death Metal, and really the objective was that I gave to him was just to write something that you're inspired by from having experienced this material. We don't want a song that's deliberately about a superhero or deliberately about a finite plot line, but how does it make you feel, and how can you relate this material to something that means something to you? So Never Ending was, when I first heard the draft of the song, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then Andy asked if I would contribute to the song, so I did played some stuff on it and worked with a couple of the sections of the music. But I thought it was just a masterful song. And then I said, hey, by the way, would you be down to voice Lex Luthor in our motion comic? And he's like, what? He's like, oh my God. So he's a super fan of all of this. And it's kind of cool to just unlock a little of that, the child and all of us. And the child is the nerd, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
where there are moments when you're into material like this where you can completely shut out the real world. And that's what this is all about. But I feel really fortunate to have been able to work with so many great artists on this record who were not just willing to come to the table, but enthusiastic about being part of it, really eager to do so. So it's really great. You know, again, this is a record made by fans of this material for fans. You know, that's the number one objective. And I really hope that people, when they hear the complete album, they really feel that that's in the heart and soul of what we created. So yeah, I'm proud about that, you know, and I have everyone to thank for it, from DC to Loma Vista, and certainly every artist has been just a tremendous collaborator. So yeah, it's
And
cool.
I think it's kind of a perfect companion piece, not only to the amazing comic series by Snyder and Capullo, but it's kind of a great companion piece to this amazing ride that you've had with these pop culture properties on the big screen, almost like no one else has had. When I was thinking about the soundtracks that you're responsible for, I mean, you've found yourself just hot wired straight into the heart of the most influential pop culture of the last 2 decades. How's that ride been like for you?
A roller coaster. The highs are high and the lows are really low. And I've been through them both. I take things in stride, you know, in my life. I try and surround myself with great people. I really love the challenge of the work, and I love the collaborative process. But I'm not, once I've learned all I can learn from doing a project, I'm on to the next thing. I'm not, you know, I'm definitely not a person who's on social media celebrating myself. I don't do that. You know, I don't gauge every project with a sense of importance over one over the next. You know, if I'm in 100%. So if I'm doing an indie movie, like Chelsea Wolfe is working with me on an indie horror movie right now,
Yeah.
that's as important as absolutely anything. Just like this record, I'm not going to blow it off and just say, oh, screw it, you know, just let the last couple songs trickle in and blah blah blah. You know, we want to make everything great always and elevate people. You know, part of my job is to understand the storyteller, whether it's a singer I'm working with on a record, or it's a director or a producer, whomever is creatively invested in the property or the idea that we're focused on. So I want to understand them, help them tell their story, and elevate the process and elevate the experience of everyone involved in any chance I get. For me, it's just it's my own therapy. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like you know, I want to be a positive presence in anyone's life that I have the privilege to be part of creatively, and I get the same in return from whoever I work with. You know, really, has elevated my own experience in this life. So I'm just out for that. You know, I had Starcrawler was in my studio last night, and David Hasselhoff, you know, is a favorite to me. He was in their new video that's going to come out in a few weeks. And I just asked Dave if he would do it. But, you know, I just did a song for David, and it's a total like torch song. You know, Elvis could have sung this song. You know, it's going to be his new single. And it's beautiful, but it's not exactly rock and roll. And I played it for them, and they were just shocked. They were just like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, the choir was just a few of us in my stairwell, you know, but you know, the thing that they even got was like, you know what, when you relate emotionally to something, you relate emotionally to it. And if that's what someone connects to, then myself as a storyteller and a producer and composer, I relate to it as well. So no matter what the style of music, no matter who the people are, as long as their intention is to create something great, challenge themselves, and you know, do their best, then I'm invested. It doesn't matter what it is. But this project, you know, I was buoyed throughout the whole thing by Matt Keller from DC. He was just such a great sounding board creatively for me. Good friend, just really, really insightful and smart. And again, this isn't like this work for hire project for me. This is totally, as you say, it's bespoke. It's made from just being passionate about the material. You know, it was not like a paying job. It was just really fun to do it. and it was a great opportunity to connect with a number of excellent artists. So I couldn't be more thrilled.
Yeah, and again, I just think you've super delivered, mate, and it's got such a through line of reality, you know, when you listen to it. And if you're familiar with the comic book, which I'm sure everybody watching this conversation is going to be, it really is a beautiful accompaniment to that. And I can't wait to have the experience of listening to the album and just reading the books again. I think that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and again, it's such a privilege to somehow have a tactile connection to the work of two of the masters of comics today. These guys are rock stars, and they deserve to be considered as such, because they are just they're just about as good as you can get, you know. So I really, again, appreciate the opportunity to work with Scott and Greg, and then to have them embrace every dimension of what I was aspiring to create. And they participated in the motion comic with voice performances, and gave me, you know, the artwork to work with at my discretion. I mean, I just thought that was fantastic. And it was really a connection on an artistic level, and a celebration of the great work that they did. So it inspired a body of work that, you know, all of us musicians who contributed to it felt really great about.
Well said, mate. I think it's an amazing outcome. And Tyler, before we go, can you tell us about anything you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, let's see. What's not under an NDA?
And this is always the answer, by the way, when we get to this part of the conversation.
I mean, the records that I'm working on, like Starcrawler, I'm just super excited about it. I just see they are potentially like a huge rock band about to happen. I'm working with these two dudes who are pretty wild, called Bad Neighbors. They're two rappers who love heavy rock music. I'm working on Gendy Tartakovsky's second season of Primal, which is an animated series. Yeah. There are a few more shows that are on the horizon. There are four, I think I have like 4 movies that are happening sequentially, and 2 of them with Ty West, who is an indie film director that I really love. And the first of which is a movie that I brought Chelsea Wolfe aboard to co-compose with me. And that's been really an awesome experience, which that ebbed from our work together on this soundtrack. So the more of that, you know, sort of inspiration that leads to future collaborations, the better. You know, I have plans with other artists too, and Gunship and I collaborated on a song, yeah. and they had this fantasy about having Dave Lombardo play drums on this electronic pop track, and you know, Dave's a close friend, so I'm like, Dave, would you be down? He says, sure. So you know, we did that, and then Dave and I worked with them on another track from their new record. So it's been like this really interesting tapestry of artistic connections. And for that, I really am happy about this, but I'm with no shortage of things to do right now.
So. No, I believe you, mate. Are you going to do Guardians 3?
I am not doing Guardians 3.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I think the way things are currently, the schedule is just not something that is going to work for us. And, you know, I'm really proud of the work that I've done with James Gunn over the years. I feel that our work on Guardians has been really elevated work, and you know, we've had extremely spirited collaborations over the years, dating back to Slither from 2006 or something. Yeah. So I'm really proud of that, and you know, I'm sure the third movie is going to be incredible. Yeah, but you know, there are many things for me to be focused on right now, and I just need to be true to them. So
understood.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, mate, I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing all of them. Tyler, thank you so much for sparing the time to talk to me about this
Andrew.
Amazing project. You know what I mean? Dark Knight's Death Metal, the soundtrack, is going to be, the whole package is going to be available from the links attached to this conversation from Forbidden Planet. But
yes,
mate, thanks so much for joining me. It's lovely chatting with you.
All right, have a great day or a great night.
Yeah, great night for me. Great day for you. Take care, brother. All the best.
All right, peace, Andrew. Bye.
Thank you. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.